Welcome to day 17 of revising previous year question paper for UPSC 2027. Today I am going to cover GS3 of 2024, the entire paper. I already done with 2025, GS1, 2, 3, 4, although the case studies were not included because I will cover it later. Well, first I will cover the theory questions and all, and thereafter I'll make a separate video for the case studies only. But I covered 2025 and GS1 to 3 of 2024 as well. Means I will cover 2023 in this video, but I covered already GS1 and GS2. So let's get started. Question 1. Examine the pattern and trend of public expenditure on social services in the post-reform period in India. To what extent this has been in consonance with achieving the objectives of inclusive growth. Post-1991 economic reforms shifted fiscal focus toward market-led growth, initially squeezing social spending. However, the economic survey highlights a progressive realignment over the last decade, with combined center-state social sector expenditure rising to over 8% of the GDP. Post-1991 fiscal tightening, targeted rights-based acts 2000, the year 2000, tech-driven capital creation. This is the flow diagram if you want. A pattern, and you need not to make flow diagram in every question, but this is because we are in practice, and that is the reason that I used to go through this. Pattern and trend of expenditure. Structural shift transitioned from basic budgetary subsidies to targeted rights-based welfare (RTI, RTE, NFSA) in the 2000s, and recently towards digital social infrastructure (JAM Trinity). Sectoral prioritization. Health spending expanded post-pandemic to 2.1% of GDP. National Health Policy 2027 target 2.5%, while education expenditure hovers around 2.9% of GDP. National Education Policy 2020 target 6%. We are still lagging behind. Consonance with inclusive growth. Positives. DBT, direct benefit transfers, eliminated leakages, lifting millions out of multidimensional poverty. Niti Aayog MPI report. Gaps. Persisting quality deficit in public schooling and high out-of-pocket expenditure, 47% and greater than 47%, maintain structural social inequalities. Scaling up social expenditure alongside outcome-based monitoring is essential to building robust human capital and sustaining inclusive development. Question 2. What are the causes of persistent high food inflation in India? Comment on the effectiveness of the monetary policy of the RBI to control this type of inflation. Food inflation in India exhibits structural persistence, frequently breaching of the Reserve Bank of India's upper tolerance threshold of 6% within the flexible inflation targeting framework. Causes of persistent high food inflation. Supply side and climate vulnerabilities. Unseasonal monsoons, heat waves, and El Nino events disrupt crop yielding. Example, vegetables, pulses. Logistical and structural bottlenecks. Inefficient cold chain supply systems. Market fragmentation under APMCs and elevated transport fuel costs. Global commodity volatility. Import dependence on edible oils and fertilizers exposes domestic food prices to international shocks. Effectiveness of RBI's monetary policy. Inherent limitations. Repo rate hikes control aggregate demand but cannot address immediate supply side disruptions or perishable crop shortages. Second round effects control. Monetary tightening remains crucial to anchor core inflation expectation and prevent food price shocks from broadening into wage price spiral. Controlling food inflation requires combining RBI's demand management with supply side agricultural reforms, modern cold storage, and targeted open market operations. What were the factors responsible for the successful implementation of land reforms in some part of the country? Elaborate. Post independence, land reforms aimed to eliminate feudal intermediaries, establish tenancy rights, and redistribute surplus land. While implementation was uneven nationally, states like West Bengal and Kerala achieved notable success. Political will. Political will plus grassroots mobilization plus clear land records results in successful land reforms. Key factors responsible for success. Strong political will. Dedicated state governments in West Bengal and Kerala prioritized agrarian restructuring as a core political agenda. Grassroots peasant mobilization. Active peasant unions, Kisan Sabhas empowered sharecroppers and rural labor to demand rights, preventing landlord evasions. Operation Barga, West Bengal, institutionalized sharecropper Bargadaras registration, securing tenancy rights and legal crop shares. Comprehensive statutory frameworks. Kerala's Land Reform Act 1969 abolished tenancy, imposed strict ownership ceilings, and transferred land directly to actual tillers. Accurate land records. Systematic updating of land titles prevented fictitious land transfers, Benami holdings. Where political commitment aligned with peasant organization, land reform dismantled feudal structures, providing a model for modern digital land records initiative. DILRMP. Question 4. Explain the role of millets for ensuring health and nutritional security in India. Millets, Sri Anna, including sorghum, pearl millets, and finger millets, are climate resilient nutri-cereals essential for addressing India's complex burden of undernutrition and hidden hunger. High nutrient density, low glycemic and gluten free. Low glycemic index, it means it will not spike your blood sugar. Combats stunting and lifestyle diseases. Role in health and nutritional security. Micronutrient density, rich in iron, calcium, zinc, and folic acid, directly countering widespread anemia, 57% in women, and NFHS5 and micronutrient deficiencies. Combating malnutrition. High protein and dietary fiber content support early childhood growth, preventing stunting and wasting in rural population. Managing non-communicable diseases. Low glycemic index and high complex carbohydrates help prevent diabetes and cardiovascular conditions. Gluten-free and digestive health. Improves gut health and offers safe dietary alternatives for celiac and gluten sensitive individuals. Policy push and climate resilience. Low water footprint, 25% of paddy requirements. Ensures sustainable production in drought prone rain-fed areas, 60% of Indian agriculture. Integrating millets into Poshan 2.0 and the public distribution system advances sustainable development goals 2 and 3, securing national bionutritional health. If you are following these videos like from last 5 6 or 8 10 days, I know because the audience is not that big, but still if you are following 1 or 2% of you, then you will find that there is the mention of the sustainable development goals in almost every second or third answer, whether it is GS3 or GS2. So make a list of all of these, or I will make it for you, and revise these as well. Okay, that can be a potential question for the prelims as well. Anyway, question 5. What is the present world scenario of intellectual property rights with respect to life materials? Although India is second in the world to file patents, still only a few have been commercialized. Explain the reasons behind this less commercialization. The global intellectual property rights landscape for life material, genes, GMOs, seed strain is governed by TRIPS and Nagoya Protocol. While global patenting expands, ethical debates over biopiracy and life monopolies persist. Present world scenario: developed nations favor broad patenting of biotechnological life forms. Example: CRISPR seeds. Developing nations like India prioritize public health, food sovereignty, and traditional knowledge protection via platforms like the Traditional Knowledge Digital Library. Reasons for low commercialization in India: weak industry academia linkages. Research in institutions like CSIR or universities remains focused on academic publication over market utility. Funding and scale-up deficits. Lack of early-stage venture capitals and private R&D investment prevents translating lab prototypes into market-ready products. Regulatory delays, prolonged biosafety clearances, and clinical trials slow product rollouts. Promoting public-private research partnerships through BIRAC and the National IPR policy will help convert India's patent volume into commercial biotechnological solution. Now look, this topic, for example, you might think that it is a current affair paper, dynamic paper, so there is no point in going through the previous year question because the question will not be repeated. But if you go through this topic, now this is, although it's a current affair topic, but it is like a static one because it will be in the news in 2023, 24, 25, 26, even 27, 28, because this scenario will not gonna change as of now. It is not changing. Like the lower commercialization is still existing and will exist for the next upcoming years at least. So that is why you need to go through, because now once you have this content in your mind, you have at least 50-60 words to write on reasons for low commercialization, why there is no or low commercialization of Indian patents in spite of the fact that we are registering the maximum numbers of patents, right? So that is why previous year question is important. You do not go through the previous year question thinking that whether it will repeat or not. No, you need to go through this previous year question just to increase your information of the related topics or in general, right? Okay, what is the technology being employed for electronic toll collection on highways? What are its advantages and limitations? What are the proposed changes that will make this process seamless? Would this transition carry any potential hazard? India currently employs radio frequency identification technology via the FASTag system for electronic toll collection on national highways under the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. Advantages and limitations. Advantages: reduces toll plaza congestion, lowers fuel consumption, decreases transit times and promotes transparent digital revenue tracking. Limitations: physical toll barrier delays, scanner read errors, balance deduction glitches, and occasional lane misalignments. Proposed changes for seamless flow. Transitioning to GNSS, Global Navigation Satellite System, and ANPR, Automatic Number Plate Recognition. Camera tracking for barrier-free, distance-based tolling. Potential hazard: privacy violations, real-time satellite tracking risk, unconstitutional movement surveillance. Cybersecurity risk: satellite data links remain vulnerable to hacking, data breaches, and system outages. Adopting GNSS tolling with robust data privacy protection will modernize highway transit efficiency. Industrial pollution of river water is a significant environmental issue in India. Discuss the various mitigation measures to deal with this problem and also the government's initiative in this regard. Untreated Effluents discharged into Indian rivers elevate biological oxygen demand, threaten aquatic ecosystem, and create severe public health hazards, as highlighted by Central Pollution Control Board river monitoring reports. Mitigation measures: zero liquid discharge, mandating industrial water recycling to prevent wastewater discharge into river basin, common effluent treatment plants, cluster-based treatment facilities for small and medium enterprises lacking individual capital, real-time monitoring, installing online continuous effluent monitoring system at major outlets, government initiatives, Namami Gange Mission, comprehensive river basin rejuvenation integrating industrial effluent controls, statutory enforcement, strict implementation of Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, National Green Tribunal NGT directives applying the polluters pays principle to non-compliant industrial units, strengthening circular water economy practices supports Sustainable Development Goal 6. See again, SDG come into the answer. Sustainable Development Goal 6, clean water and sanitation and river basin health. What role do environmental NGOs and activists play in influencing environmental impact assessment outcomes for major projects in India? Cite, for example, with all important details. Environmental NGOs and activists act as critical public checks in environmental impact assessment process under the Environment Protection Act 1986, ensuring ecological prevention and local community rights. A role in influencing EIA outcomes. They organize public hearing, highlight baseline data deficiencies, expose ecological risk, and seek judicial redress via the National Green Tribunal. 4 key example. Niyamgiri bauxite mining, Odisha. Activists mobilized Dongria Kond tribes. Public scrutiny led to EIA clearance rejection to protect sacred hills. Vedanta Sterlite Copper Plant. Thoothukudi NGO advocacy highlighted improper environmental clearances and toxic emissions leading to plant shutdown. Array Forest Metro Car Shed, Mumbai. Citizen campaigns challenged EIA forest exemptions, forcing project design modification and tree transplantation mandates. POSCO Steel Plant, Odisha. Activist litigation challenged inadequate social impact and biodiversity assessments, resulting in clearance cancellation. Civic oversight strengthened the EIA framework, balancing industrial progress with ecological sustainability. And maybe this year they will ask something related to Aravallis because it was in the news, maybe in geography or in environment. Let's see. Explain how narco-terrorism has emerged as a serious threat across the country. Suggest suitable measures to counter narco-terrorism. Narco-terrorism, the syndicate nexus between the illicit drug trafficking and armed insurgent networks, possesses a serious national security threat by destabilizing border regions and financing anti-state violence. Emergence as a national security threat. Proxy war funding. Illicit drug trade along the Golden Crescent West and Golden Triangle East funds cross-border terrorism in J&K and insurgencies in the Northeast. Hybrid warfare. Drone-based drug drops across Punjab borders undermine internal stability and cause youth addiction. Organized crime links. Weaponization of proceeds funds illegal arms procurement, money laundering, and underground Hawala networks. Countermeasures. Integrated border management, deploying anti-drone technology, deep sensing radars, and smart fencing along sensitive borders. Interagency synergy, strengthening coordination between the Narcotics Control Bureau (NIA), border guarding forces, and state police via NCORD protocols and CORD protocols. Financial disruption, tracking illicit crypto transactions and hawala channels through the Financial Intelligence Unit (FIU) IND. Addressing narco-terrorism requires coordinated border security and strong international counter-trafficking cooperation. Describing the sorry. Describe the context and salient features of the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. Enacted in the wake up of the landmark K.S. Puttaswamy 2017 judgment, the Digital Personal Data Protection (DPDP) Act 2023 establishes India's statutory framework for data privacy, balancing individual privacy rights with lawful data processing needs. Context of enactment: driven by the rapid growth of the digital economy, high volumes of cross-border data flows, and the need to protect citizens against unauthorized data profiling and privacy breaches. Salient features: core entities defined, identifies individual citizens as data principals and processing organizations as data fiduciaries. 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 Constant and proposed limitation requires clear, itemized notice and explicit consent prior to data collection, restricted to specified lawful purposes. Rights of data principals grant rights to access, correct, erase personal data, and nominate representative in case of incapacity. Data Protection Board of India establishes an independent adjudicatory body to investigate breaches and impose financial penalties. The DPDP Act reinforces a digital trust, providing a framework for individual privacy and a secure digital economy. Discuss the merits and demerits of the four labor codes in the context of labor market reforms in India. What has been the progress so far in this regard? India consolidated 29 central labor status into four streamlined codes: wages, industrial relations, social security, and occupational safety, health and working conditions, to modernize labor governance, attract investment, and expand formal social protection. Merits of the four labor codes: ease of doing business, replaces fragmented compliance frameworks with single window registrations and unified definitions. Example: standardizing wages. Operational flexibility raises the threshold for mandatory government approval for retrenchments from 100 to 300 workers under the Industrial Relation Code, boosting manufacturing skills. Universal Social Security Net extends healthcare, provident funds, and insurance benefits to platform, gig, and unorganized workers via a dedicated social security fund. Gender neutrality permits women to work night shifts across all sectors, backed by mandatory employer safety norms. Demerits and structural concern: diluted worker protections. Raising thresholds for layoffs and union formation weakens job security and collective bargaining power. Excessive delegated legislation. Core operational rules are left to executive rule making rather than legislative oversight. Compliance burden on MSME. Abrupt wage definition restructuring increases short-term provident fund liabilities. Progress so far. Labor is a concurrent subject. List 3. While Parliament enacted the code's full pan-India implementation requires all states and union territories to finalize matching subordinate rules. Most states have published draft rules across codes, but uniform operational rollout awaits complete administrative alignment across key industrial states, balancing labor flexibility with robust social safety nets, ensuring equitable growth, advancing Sustainable Development Goal 8, again SDG, decent work and economic growth. Question 12. What is the need for expanding the regional air connectivity in India? In this context, discuss the government's UDAN scheme and its achievements. Regional air connectivity acts as a force multiplier for economic development, bridging geographical barriers, promoting tourism and decentralizing regional growth across Tier 2 and Tier 3 and unserved hinterlands. Need for expanding regional air connectivity. Unlocking tier 2 and 3 economic potential, connects remote production hubs to national markets, boosting trade, regional employment and local investments, promoting tourism and heritage access, provides fast transit to ecologically sensitive cultural and remote pilgrimage circuits, example Northeast region, Himalayan states, relieving metro airport congestion, divert regional traffic away from saturated metro hubs, optimizing air traffic controls corridors. Emergency infrastructure facilitates rapid medical evacuations and disaster relief ops in topographical isolated areas. Government's UDAN scheme, उड़े देश का आम नागरिक, launched under the National Civil Aviation Policy, UDAN uses a market-based viability gap funding mechanism, capping regional airfares to make flying affordable for the common citizen. Key achievements: infrastructure expansion, operationalized over 70 previously undeserved airports. Operationalized over 70 previously underserved, not undeserved, underserved airports, heliports and water aerodromes, example Darbhanga, Jharsuguda and Pakyong. Route activation, connected over 450 regional routes, boosting domestic passenger growth and regional airline operations. Targeted sub-schemes, deployed specialized sub-components like Krishi Udan, transporting perishable agricultural produce, and International Udan to enhance air cargo logistics, addressing last-mile infrastructure gaps and sustaining airline financial viability will solidify Udan as an engine for inclusive regional development. What are the major challenges faced by the Indian irrigation system in recent times? State the measures taken by the government for efficient irrigation management. While India possesses the world's largest cultivated land area, over 50% remains dependent on rainfall. The irrigation sector faces severe structural vulnerabilities that threaten agricultural productivity and food security. Major challenges facing Indian irrigation. Severe groundwater depletion, over-reliance on tube well irrigation driven by subsidized farm power causes water tables to plummet in paddy wheat belts. Example Punjab, Haryana. Low water use efficiency. Surface canal systems suffer from conveyance losses, siltation and flood irrigation practices, resulting in low average WUE 38%. WUE is water use efficiency, regional imbalances and command area deficit, gap between created irrigation potential and utilized irrigation potential due to incomplete field channels. Soil degradation and salinization. Poor canal drainage creates waterlogging and soil salinization, reducing farm yields. Government measures for efficient irrigation management. Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana integrates water resource creation, Har Khet Ko Pani, with field application efficiency. Micro irrigation expansion, promoting drip and sprinkler system via subsidized capital outlays, conserving up to 50% water. Atal Bhujal Yojana, community-led sustainable groundwater management in water-stressed district. Catch the Rain campaign, promoting rainwater harvesting and aquifer recharge structures under Jal Shakti Abhiyan. Command Area Development, CADWM, accelerating canal network integration to bridge the IPC-IPU gap, transitioning to climate resilient water management via micro irrigation and crop diversification secures agricultural sustainability and farmer livelihood. Elucidate the importance of buffer stock for stabilizing agricultural prices in India. What are the challenges associated with the storage of buffer stock? Discuss. Buffer stocking. Buffer stocking involves the central procurement, storage, and release of essential food grains, wheat, and rice by the Food Corporation of India to maintain national food security and price stability. Importance of buffer stock for price stabilization. Mitigating supply shocks provides a strategic reserve to absorb climate disruption, monsoon failures, or crop disease outbreaks without triggering domestic price spikes. Market price intervention enables open market sales schemes during inflationary period to cool down retail food grain prices. Food security anchor feeds the public distribution system under the National Food Security Act, insulating vulnerable populations from price swings. Livelihood floor support. Minimum support price operations prevent distressed sales by farmers during bumper harvest season. Challenges associated with buffer stock storage. Open-ended procurement cost. Procuring beyond prescribed buffer norms inflates the National Food Subsidy Bill and locks up capital. Physical storage infrastructure deficit. Inadequate covered storage forces reliance on temporary cover and plinth storage, causing grain spoilage and pest damage. High carrying and administrative cost. Operation incur elevated handling, storage, and transit losses, raising FCI carrying cost. Market distortion. Excessive state procurement reduces private grain trade participation, distorting free market price discovery. Implementing the high-level committee Shanta Kumar recommendation, including modernizing SILO infrastructure, digitizing grain management, and rationalizing buffer threshold will streamline price stabilization operations. The world is facing an acute shortage of clean and safe fresh water. What are the alternative technologies which can solve this crisis? Briefly discuss any three such technologies, citing their key merits and demerits. Climate change, urban concentration, and industrial pollution have intensified global freshwater scarcity. SDG 6. Advanced technological solutions offer pathways to augment usable water reserves. Freshwater scarcity, technological augmentation, sustainable water supply. Alternative technologies solving the crisis. Reverse osmosis desalination, atmospheric water generation, advanced wastewater recycling, direct indirect portable reuse. Evaluation of three key technologies. Reverse osmosis desalination processes seawater through semi-permeable membranes under high pressure to extract potable water. Merits. Infinite seawater supply source provides reliable climate-independent drinking water for coastal arid areas. Example, Gulf nation, Chennai. Demerits. High energy footprints. Generates hypersaline brine effluent that harms marine ecosystem if improperly discharged. Atmospheric water generation. Extract moisture directly from ambient air using cooling condensation or desiccant system. Merits. Decentralized operation requires no surface water source, useful in remote landlocked areas or disaster zones. Demerits: low output yield, high energy intensive, dependent on ambient relative humidity levels. Advanced waters Advanced wastewater recycling, membrane bioreactors versus UV disinfection. Purifiers Purifies industrial and municipal sewage into high-grade reusable water. Merits: support circular water economy, reduces freshwater withdrawal, lower urban effluent pollution. Demerits: high initial capital setup cost, socio-cultural resistance, toilet to tap perception. Integrating scalable water technologies with renewable energy systems ensure long-term water security and environmental protection. What are asteroids? How real is the threat of them causing extinction of life? What strategies have been developed to prevent such a catastrophe? Asteroids are rocky, airless remnants left over from the early formation of the solar system around 4.6 billion years ago, primarily residing in the main asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Reality of the threat of life extinction. Geological and historical reality. Geological evidence such as the Chicxulub Chicxulub impact crater 66 million years ago confirms that a large asteroid impact, more than 10-kilometer diameter, caused mass extinction events including the dinosaurs. Near Earth object NEOs threat. NASA and ESA monitor over 30,000 NEOs. While impact probability for extinction level asteroid greater than 1 kilometer is extremely low in the near term, smaller bolids 100 to 300 meter pose catastrophic regional destruction threat. Example: Tunguska event. Strategies developed to prevent such catastrophes. Planetary defense tracking. Global optical and radar monitoring networks. Example: NASA's Center for Near Earth Object Studies pan stars, detect and track potentially hazardous asteroids. Kinetic impactor technology. NASA's DART double asteroid redirection test mission successfully altered the orbit of the asteroid moon Dimo, Dimorphos, Dimorphos, Pro, Dimorphos or Dimorphos, proving kinetic deflection as a viable planetary defense strategy. Gravity tractors and nuclear deflection. Theoretically, strategies involving hovering spacecraft to gravitationally alter asteroid trajectories or using targeted nuclear detonations for deflection. Continuous global space surveillance and international planetary defense coordination ensure humanity can preemptively identify and deflect extraterrestrial impact threats. What is the disaster resilience? How is it determined? Describe various elements of a resilience framework. Also mention the global targets of Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. According to the UNDRR disaster resilience, the disaster resilience is the ability of a system, community, or society exposed to hazards to resist, absorb, accommodate, adapt to, transform, and recover from the effects of a hazard in a timely and efficient manner. How resilience is determined? Resilience is determined through integrated assessments of structural infrastructure quality, socio-economic coping capacity, institutional readiness, ecological stability, and community emergency preparedness. Key elements of a resilience framework: risk assessment and early warnings, science-based hazard mapping and real-time monitoring system, Doppler weather radars, structural and non-structural mitigations, climate resilient construction codes alongside nature-based solution, example mangrove conservation. Institutional readiness, financial risk, transfer mechanism, disaster relief funds, and rapid emergency response protocols. Community capacity building, local disaster management teams, Aapda Mitra, and public awareness campaigns. Global targets of the Sendai framework: reduce global disaster mortality relative to global population, reduce number of affected people globally, reduce direct disaster economic loss in relation to global GDP, reduce disaster damage to critical infrastructure and disruption of basic services, increase countries with national local DRR strategies by 2020, enhance international cooperation to developing countries, increase availability of and access to multi-hazard early warning systems. Building disaster resilience aligns with Sustainable Development Goal 11, transforming reactive relief operations into proactive risk reduction. Question 18. Flooding in urban areas is an emerging climate-induced disaster. Discuss the causes of this disaster. Mention the features of two such major floods in the last 2 decades in India. Describe the policies and frameworks in India that aim at tackling such floods. Urban flooding is an emerging disaster where high intensity precipitation exceeds the absorption and drainage capacity of built environments, exacerbated by climate change and unplanned urban expansion. Causes of urban flooding: climatic drivers, high intensity, short duration localized rainfall events driven by global warming. Anthropogenic and structural failure, destruction of natural urban wetlands, encroachment on natural drainage channels, and high surface concreting more than 80%, reducing infiltration. Drainage infrastructure deficit, outdated stormwater drainage networks clogged with solid waste. Features of two major urban floods. Mumbai flood 2015, caused by extreme cloudburst rainfall 944 mm in 24 hours, coinciding with high tides, paralyzing transportation, crippling power network, and causing heavy loss of life. Chennai floods 2015, caused by heavy monsoon rainfall combined with reservoir discharges. Chembarakam Lake and choked urban waterways, Adiyar and Combe rivers, causing massive urban inundation. Policies and frameworks in India. NDMA Guidelines on Management of Urban Flooding 2010 recommends creating dedicated urban flood management cells, stormwater drainage inventorying, and Doppler radar integration. Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation prioritizes upgrading urban drainage infrastructure and restoring water bodies. Early warning system, deployment of local forecast portals like iFlows Mumbai and CFlows Chennai. Integrating eco-restoration of wetlands, sponge city concept with strict urban zoning laws provides a sustainable path towards resilient cities. India has a long troubled border with China and Pakistan, fraught with contentious issues. Examine the conflicting issue and security challenges along the border. Also give out the development being undertaken in these areas under the Border Area Development Program and Border Infrastructure Management Scheme BIM. India shares over 15,000 kilometers of land borders with neighboring nations. The borders with Pakistan 3323 kilometers and China 3488 kilometers present complex territorial disputes and security threats. Conflicting issues and security challenges. Pakistan border, undemarcated line of control, state sponsored cross border terrorism, tunnel intrusions, drone based drug weapon drops, and maritime disputes. Sir Creek. China border, absence of a mutually agreed line of actual control, territorial overlaps, unilateral attempts to alter status quo, and rapid militarization of the Tibetan Plateau. Terrain and climate risk. Extreme high altitude glaciated topographies create severe logistics and operational maintenance challenges. Development under BADP and BIM schemes. Border Area Development Program BADP focus socio-economic empowerment of border population to prevent distress migration. Key works: construction of rural connectivity roads, primary healthcare centers, school, renewable microgrids, and community centers in remote border villages. Border infrastructure and management BIM schemes. Focus strengthening tactical military capability and physical border security. Key works: construction of smart border smart bo- construction of smart border fencing, flood lighting, high altitude border outputs, and strategic all-weather tunnels. Example: Atal Tunnel, Sela Tunnel, via the Border Road Organization (BRO). Combining hard border infrastructure with inclusive socio-economic development secures frontier and strengthens national sovereignty. Social media and encrypting messaging services pose a serious security challenge. What measures have been adopted at various levels to address the security implication of social media? Also suggest any other remedies to address the problem. While digital platforms enable free expression, end-to-end encryption, and sorry and social media algorithms are exploited by malicious actors for cyber attacks, rumor propagation, radicalization, and organized crime, posing internal security threat. Security challenges: anonymity and traceability. Encrypted platforms impede law enforcement tracking of terror financing, drug syndicates, and child sexual abuse materials. Information warfare. Rapid dissemination of deepfakes, fake news, and communal hate speech triggers law and order disruptions. Measures adopted at various levels. Statutory and regulatory rules. The IT Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Codes IT Rules 2021 mandate first originator traceability for messaging platform and require appointing resident compliance officer. Institutional framework establishment of the Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center I4C and Cyber Dost initiative under the Ministry of Home Affairs for real-time threat reporting. Platform level actions: deploying AI content moderation, automated fake news flagging, and two-factor authentication requirements. Suggested further remedies: metadata analysis without decryption, developing privacy-preserving metadata tracking frameworks to identify illegal syndicates without breaking E2EE for ordinary citizens. Digital literacy campaign: integrate critical media literacy into school curricula to help citizens identifying deepfakes and disinformation. International cooperation: establish global protocols through the UN and Budapest Convention frameworks to enable cross-border digital evidence sharing. Balancing citizen privacy with national security requires a calibrated mix of regulatory oversight, technological innovation, and public digital literacy.